What's up, runners? I know it's been a while since the last video, but there's been a lot going on between the final shape, the day one raid, and my personal life. So I'm sorry for making you all wait for the Gear Fear video, but it should be out soon. I am still working on it. In the meantime, we have a special video for you now from myself and fellow content creator Jake the Alright. Jake's channel is all about Marathon, and he's done a ton of great work presenting on Marathon's lore and the ARG, as well as doing breakdowns and predictions of his own regarding Marathon. The first part of this discussion is on Jake's channel at Jake the Alright, which you'll find linked below. So please go ahead and watch that first, and drop Jake a sub if you want to keep up on the Marathon news.
Well, I guess with that being said, what do you think in terms of Bungie? What has Bungie done that makes you feel like they kind of understand the extraction shooter genre or market as a whole that is kind of uniquely preparing them to kind of fill this position that you're talking about, where they're going to be able to create an accessible, AAA extraction shooter that takes into account a lot of these, quality of life improvements that we can see from them? Is there something specific that stands out to you, in terms of what they've done with Destiny or what they've done in terms of community support that makes you feel like they're going to be able to achieve that?
I wouldn't say there's a specific thing they've done with Destiny or another game that's made me feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's more how they have come and released their IPs in the past, which is just that, the original Marathon trilogy, Myth, Halo, Destiny were all very landmark games. Maybe Myth less so. I don't know how many people play Myth. I know the people who enjoy Myth really love Myth.
Hardcore fans.
But But even then, just seeing it, everything they do is a very innovative take on whatever they're doing. Marathon added a lot of story and the 3D looking and dual wielding to FPSs, which is really cool. Myth was a very different take on RTS with just static unit mounts instead of building and all that. They got rid of all that stuff. Halo created the control scheme every game now uses for controllers. Multiplayer matchmaking on consoles with lobbies like that was a crazy invention at the time. Destiny's a very unique take on FPSs and MMOs, and I think it's been successful.
The scale of the cooperative element of Destiny. I mean, if you want to play Destiny, there's really not a better way to scratch that itch. It's like they really kind of carved out something very unique there.
Yeah, if you try to stop playing Destiny, you're like, I'm going to go play something that's like Destiny, but not Destiny. You're looking at Warframe.
Yeah.
And I don't think Warframe's as popular.
Yeah.
Just on premise.
Yeah.
But I think they do a lot of market research. And I think if they came out and said, Marathon's going to be an extraction shooter, it's because they already looked at the genre, pulled apart every game that has a player count above 5, and broke down what's going on with all of them, and they have some crazy ideas. I can say I expect it to be good. I expect it to have good gunplay because Bungie makes good gunplay, right? Everybody will say Destiny 2 is amazing gunplay, whether they like the game or not. It feels good to shoot. And they're going to have good movement, and it's going to look good. But Bungie is going to find a way to surprise us. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it'll be, but, we're all going to load up that game on day one, and you're going to spawn in, and I don't know, Eminem's going to be there breakdancing in the middle of the map.
Fortnite style. We get the big Little Nas X concert. We got all sorts of crazy.
Yeah.
John Marathon.
Put a concert in there.
Yeah. It's going crazy. No, you bring up a really good point. Yeah. And I see a lot of people just generally kind of across other videos about Marathon and my videos about Marathon and on this, Marathon subreddit. And you do kind of see this reoccurring thing with some people where they're like, oh, the moment I heard it was an extraction shooter, I was out. And like you said, kind of the thing that always pops to my head is extraction shooter is kind of a burgeoning market. It's a newer thing. And conceptually, that's what kind of the narrative first-person shooter was when the original Marathon was released. I mean, they really were innovating, like you said, in a lot of really pivotal ways that still present themselves today, and I kind of see this as an extension of what they've been doing for the entire time that really primes them to make something special out of this. And I just agree. It's definitely, that's something that makes me think like, yeah, I don't know why people would be turned off, because it's, a genre that they haven't played before or isn't as prevalent. What do you think? I guess getting more into the specifics about Marathon. What do you think about the kind of stylistically what they've shown so far in terms of art and visually what they put together for like some of the ARG stuff? In terms of like in game, obviously we haven't really seen anything kind of in the extraction shooter genre, or honestly, with my perspective, I might be a little biased here with how cool I thought the teaser or the reveal trailer or whatever looked. But what do you think? I mean, how do you think that will translate over to the gameplay aspect in terms of this graphic realism that they're going for in this very unique kind of cyberpunk aesthetic?
Yeah, I mean, I also loved the trailer. I've probably watched it more than most people.
Got that Justice
too much
song stuck on replay in the brain. Yeah.
So good. But no, the art style, I think it is very clean. I'm personally a fan of what they went for. And I think that it will do a lot for playing the game. I don't think a lot of people are thinking about this right now, looking at it. And I think a lot of people, this is kind of to the point of a lot of people looked at it and said it's an extraction shooter. Ew. Most people don't know what an extraction shooter is, what it really entails. They have one impression of one game for 5 minutes and they're like, ew. But
well, like you said, they're kind of impenetrable in some ways. Like they are difficult for a more casual audience to even engage in.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't blame them for doing it. It's half of them can't even access one on their platform. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it makes sense. And I expect that to kind of change as more stuff comes out and people get to play it, and that'll all happen. But for the art style, I personally think if the actual gameplay ends up using that art style in useful ways, I'm going to say useful ways because they could, put in some nice foliage and stuff in places. But if they're using this nice, clean aesthetic, I think it does a lot for visibility. And visibility is probably one of the biggest complaints that you'll see in like extraction shooter communities, because people sitting in bushes is aggravating, and it's hard to play against it. And it's hard not to fall into doing it, because just say you're getting chased, somebody's coming. You're in the middle of a field with a couple of bushes. What are you going to do? You're going to go sit in the bush because it covers you. It's natural. It's kind of how you would hunt anybody, right? You're going to go hunting out in the woods. You're going to use concealment, right?
Yeah.
So if they go for this really clean aesthetic and they don't put a ton of foliage in there, but the art style pops out and the character models pop out against the background, it becomes a lot more fair, I would say, because one of the things that I would say sets people apart in something like extraction shooters right now is being able to locate people at all. Whether that's being able to notice the pixels in a bush that wave a little bit because somebody's sitting there. The pixels wave at the bush, but the character model doesn't. Yeah. If you can notice that, you get a big advantage. If personally, I'm really good at catching sound, so I will hear people stop running at like 55 meters away and hunt, or I can hear somebody ADS from like 2 rooms away. And that's I use my ears a lot when I'm playing shooters. But if I couldn't do that, if the sound wasn't as good, if the pixels weren't as clear, all of a sudden, you can't see that person, or you're not expecting it, or they're not making noise, like you just get jumped, you just die. And how are you supposed to know they were there? But with a clean art style, if there's not a bunch of that to hide behind, you walk into a room, you're going to see the guy that's standing in the corner. And it's a lot less frustrating if you die to something that you see.
Yeah. Yeah, having like a strong silhouette, I feel like does make it feel a lot more satisfying. Even if you look kind of at the I'm drawing a blank of this, but like PlayerUnknown Battleground, this kind of like, big, like, Fortnite, I felt like the transition from PUBG being kind of that premier battle royale game to Fortnite almost did have something to do with kind of this clean aesthetic. Not that these are similar at all, but I do feel like Marathon does have an opportunity to kind of create something that's more palatable on the eye, that is more clear. Not that it's, it's just different, but I do feel like Fortnite, like it, for example, benefited in terms of battle royales are very, popular. And when you're trying to play PUBG, it's like you said, is that a bush? Is that a guy? I mean, it looks good. It's very, it's much more realistic, but is that as satisfying in terms of like we're playing a game, and I want it to feel attainable,
Yeah, and I would say that's actually a pretty good analogy for what I think is going to happen with Marathon. Like the whole idea of going from something like PUBG to Fortnite. Mm-hmm. Fortnite is much more popular than PUBG is now. I don't know if it's bigger than PUBG ever was. PUBG hit some crazy numbers, but so did Fortnite. But yeah, like that kind of just like cleaning up some of the messiness, going for a style that's more approachable to a lot of people. And I would say, apart from the building, Fortnite's got a lot of more simple stuff going on. But that's kind of what I feel like Marathon's going to be, to a different degree, because the genre is very different, right? Mm-hmm. Extraction shooters aren't as big as battle royales were. But I think Marathon's still going to have that effect of bringing it to a much more playable state for a lot more people. And then we're going to see a large surge in players in that.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to rival Fortnite. Don't get me wrong. I think
hey, we can Fortnite, have our hopes. That would help us. That would benefit us.
We can have our hopes.
We can pray.
I would love if everybody in the world started playing Marathon. If it was the number one game in the world, I'd be very happy. I'd love that. But I think in general, like battle royales are accessible more so than anything else, because you go in with nothing and you just hop in and play. There's a little bit of forethought that goes into an extraction shooter, and that's a barrier to entry to some people.
Yeah, it's more intentional, it seems.
Yeah, but I think it can be simplified a lot, and that barrier to entry can be brought down a lot, and that will be the strength of the game, is that it's easy to read. You can even call it just a gateway extraction shooter.
Yeah.
I expect it'll be deep, and I expect it to be something that I could play for a long time, and other people can play for a long time. But it might be something that some people get onto, and they're like, wow, this is kind of good. And they might branch out to things like Tarkov and Hunt after that. Yeah. Like kind of a rising tides raises all boats situation.
Yeah.
But I think it could be that. I think it's a good analogy to some degree.
Well, I guess
to a lesser degree, maybe not as big.
Yeah. Well, I guess following that kind of player population, what kind of community support kind of exists for extraction shooters right now in terms of maintaining a healthy player base? Is there something that you see Tarkov or Hunt doing that you think specifically relates to extraction shooter as a genre and should translate over? Or do you think that specifically Bungie, I guess, is going to kind of carve a new path in terms of that? I mean, I know Hunt and obviously Tarkov, very niche kind of communities, but very loyal player base. I feel like it's a very strong community around that. Do you think Bungie is kind of equipped to build out another community, especially I guess with how much effort it probably takes to retain what's going on with Destiny?
Yeah, you're talking like basically communicating with the community, getting feedback and stuff like that, and giving out like reasoning for stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tarkov is notoriously terrible at community sentiment.
Notoriously terrible. That's a great statement to have attached to your team, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they put a lot of roadmaps and things like that, and they miss their deadlines and stuff. And I don't blame it. I expected they've been doing. It's kind of just how it's been for them, developing out in Russia. But Hunt, I think, is really communicative. They give us a lot of reasons whenever they do patch notes. Like if they're like, oh, we nerfed this gun by this amount of damage, they'll go through and they'll put a note as to why they did it exactly and what they're hoping to achieve, which I think is good, having that. And then they've also been doing surveys the last couple of seasons, kind of getting feedback on things they added and things they did for the event, and try to get a ballpark of where people think about all these things are in the meta, if they're good, if they would like to see them as permanent additions. That's how we've gotten some of our newer stuff, is things that used to be events and we liked them and they put them in the game for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Bungie are, they've had some bad raps here and there, but I think they are kings of community building. Yeah. Destiny at its foundation was a game about community, but they've been putting out weekly updates at the TWAB or whatever, the TWID now. But their weekly posts about the game, whatever they're working on, if they can talk about it, what they're looking to patch or change, upcoming events, things in the company, charity things, recognizing community members on Twitter. In those monthly posts, they'll do like artwork and clips of the week and stuff like that.
That's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, Bungie's really on top of that. And they actually just got back, I want to say, one of, if not the fan favorite community manager who left last year or maybe the year before. He just got rehired as community lead for the Destiny IP instead of Destiny the game or something like that. He's apparently rungs up the ladder. But they're a very communicative team. And they take feedback very seriously, I'd say. Usually if something's really broken, they will look into it. They don't always say they looked into it, but they will look into it and they'll check the stats and the usage and stuff. So they're trying to stay on top of it. Destiny's probably one of the hardest games to, balance.
Yeah.
So many variables.
Well, you have a decade's worth of shit,
Yeah, I mean, they released, 3 weapons one day, and that's, 7,000 permutations of the guns that they have to look through to make sure they're all working in some kind of band. But they do their best. They hit the outliers. They try and buff up the bad stuff. They're trying to get everything into a semi-reasonable playing field. But no, they're usually pretty engaged. I mean, even the Vidocs, just putting out the Vidocs is more than I think anybody else does.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a lot of studios, who will announce games and have stuff like they don't really give you that kind of access to see where the developers' heads are at generally. But I am happy to hear that somebody who has this kind of breadth of experience with Destiny does feel like, as a, I guess as a larger organization, they're tuned in to kind of what the community has to say. That is reassuring to hear. And I think that maybe, I'm assuming you'd agree, that seems like an important piece to kind of carry over to something that's going to be live service.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think, if we're talking about it, the devs are the ones that are probably listening. I don't think the higher ups are all that clean, but it is what it is. It's just kind of how companies work sometimes. But no, I think they are, as a company, very receptive, and I think they're in a good place.
Do you think that Marathon is going to pull a lot of Destiny players, or do you think it's mostly going to be bringing new people into the extraction shooter genre, or do you think a lot of people are kind of fed up with some of the issues they've had at Tarkov are going to jump over? What do you think kind of generally the player base is going to look like?
Day one, I think everybody's going to hop in. I think you're going to see people from different extraction shooters hopping in, because I think most of them will know Bungie is a big company, right? Everybody knows who Bungie is. I think they'll be interested. They might hop on, depending on the price. We'll hop in and try it out. Destiny players is kind of hard to say. A lot of people were on the book of leaving after the final shape. And maybe some of those are PvP players that'll go to Marathon. There's so many people that just play Destiny PvP that I don't know if they would make it in a game where they can't pop their super. It's just, I expect Destiny to feel very different from Marathon because of the abilities and things like that. I think a lot of people, there are people who love Destiny PvP, and I think those people are not going to leave for Marathon. I think a lot of them, this might be like 20% of the population, on the high end. I think there's going to be some hardcore, I like Destiny PvP and that's it, people. And I think, a good chunk of people will go and try Marathon, but I think there's going to be maybe another 20% that just don't care, and aren't going to play either of them. I think the other extraction shooter players is a big yes. I'm with a big hope because, Bungie might probably be happy if Destiny players are playing both games.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're making two very distinct games to draw two different audiences. I don't think they want Destiny players to go over to Marathon. They want COD and Fortnite's players to come to Marathon.
Interesting.
And that's where I think we're going to see a lot of people come in.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes a lot of sense.
I guess I'll touch on it because COD did try out that DMZ extraction shooter mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I've mentioned this on my channel. I think DMZ was a little bit of a gateway taste for a lot of people who didn't realize they might be interested, but it was so shallow and so underdeveloped that they didn't get like a true taste of what it might be to be an extraction shooter. But now they're interested.
Yeah.
It was in COD, which means that there's a little bit of something in here that I might like.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to push a lot of people to try it. So maybe not subconsciously, maybe not consciously, but be subconscious, will be interested. I doubt it'd be anyone who's looking at, our content now, or anybody who's even paying attention to Bungie. It might just be, John Fortnite, who's 14 and plays COD and Fortnite. But yeah, I think that's the market they're going for. And I think that's what Marathon will appeal to the most, just in the idea of it being an extraction shooter and Destiny being what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be the biggest portion. And I'll say maybe 30% of Destiny players move to Marathon at most.
That is a great point, and I'm just realizing how hilarious it is that I have played DMZ, and we've been talking about extraction shooters for this amount of time, and you're right, shallow is the perfect word, because I forgot to even bring it up this whole time in terms of talking about this, but it would totally fit right in. I guess for me, one of my big things, and I will say this, obviously you have experience with Hunt, my personal favorite part about Hunt Showdown, and this is probably like the nerdiest thing you could like about Hunt, is the lore, like compendium they had, the fucking book.
Yeah.
That personally, for me, was like the coolest thing. I didn't even notice it. I'd played through the majority of time it took for me to make the video before I found that, and I was like, oh, this is so sick having this kind of in here. And obviously, I'm thinking in terms of Marathon, I'm like, if you have your own kind of data pad and you can read through terminals and stuff, that would be excellent. And I really like the way that they kind of, you have a world and you're just experiencing it. And this kind of separate, compendium of information is there for people who want to kind of get into that. And obviously Bungie is known for its, incredible storytelling and Destiny and Halo Marathon. How important do you think narrative elements are going to be in Marathon, and what are your expectations with that given what you've experienced with other extraction shooters? Do you think you've seen something in terms of, like, obviously that's like a small example, do you think they're going to implement something like that, or do you think kind of what they're pitching in terms of this player driven narrative and having these world events, and it seems like the Vidoc was hinting at kind of like something similar to these like world first, like doing stuff like that within Marathon. What do you think they're gonna kind of do with that, or what direction do you see that going in that would flow with what they have going?
Yeah, in terms of lore, like you said, Bungie's the kings of lore drops, pretty much. Every lore book in Destiny's a gold mine for Byf.
Oh yeah,
and
I say his 10-hour video I saw just over. What a amazing!
I haven't finished it. I need to go watch it. You just reminded me. I forgot. I got like an hour in.
Not before, even as a player, just as someone who appreciates, the commitment and just, being dedicated to a narrative and analyzing, summarizing it that way. Super cool. Super impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, the cool thing is there's people that want it, Yeah. Byf is highly successful just doing lore in Destiny. And there's people that have been doing lore for Marathon for, 25 years? More than 25 years.
Look at the story page, obviously is collected so much theorizing and whatnot for a very long time.
So I think Bungie is going to have a backstory for what happened on Tau Ceti. I don't want to personally go into like Marathon lore for the original trilogy too much because I feel like a lot of people should experience that.
Mm-hmm.
But based on the end of Infinity, who knows what happened? We could be anywhere in the timeline. Anything could have happened. I think they're going to do a really cool, interesting story with that. Is what I'm expecting to be the first bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're going to pull their Destiny lore strings, and hopefully we got the terminals around with the things, and we kind of log it and catalog it. Maybe I would like if you could interact with the terminals in game. You get the page pop up. You can read it in game, and then it saves to your starter screen.
Okay.
So if you don't want to read it in game, you can go read it out.
Yeah. Downloading it, so you don't have to worry about Svit coming by or rounds flying over your head while you're trying to analyze some text and see what it means.
Yeah, I would love to see some lore hunters day one of the game sprinting into places that they don't know how to fight anything, just hitting E on all the terminals to try and download them to go read them. I would love that.
See, that's the way I enjoy Marathon is as a novel. I love the sci-fi of it. So
yeah, I mean it's from what we have all the way back in the day. It's a really good story, and expanding on it for a new generation is a really cool idea. I expect to see the best extraction shooter story we've ever had because Tarkov is so minimal. Hunt is very not in your face. It's more background lore on how the creatures came to be kind of stuff. Or just the history of the weapons.
Yeah.
So I think Bungie's going to have by far the best extraction shooter plot. As for the player interaction thing, with players dictating the way the story goes and stuff like that, I think there's a couple ways it could go. I'm more expecting something like World's First in terms of Destiny raids, where whoever does it first was canonically the ones who did it first. They always planned that you would do it in the storyline. They maybe just put in a little... I'm hoping for like a little thing that might have like a little diagram or a digital plaque that just says who completed it, that'd be cool. Or if it's just logged somewhere, but so the people's names should be in game because like the Destiny raid, your name's not in game, you're on Twitter. And you do get the raid belts, which is cool. I don't know how they're going to do a raid belt for Marathon, but I would love to win a gold raid belt.
Dude, I want like Christopher Barrett or Jason Jones putting the belt on someone like he's Dana White, the UFC stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want a whole show.
I would love Christopher Barrett to put a belt on somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not expecting too much like Defiance. That was the game / TV show, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The TV show, tie-in show where you're making decisions in the game and it's affecting the narrative.
Yeah, I'm not expecting that kind of player interaction. I'm expecting more discovering things and solving puzzles and getting immortalized for that. And I think that's fine. I think some people would really want to see like whole new lore pages and things being written that the players did.
Yeah.
But I think if anybody's going to do it, Bungie would pull it off 100%. But I think it's very difficult to actually write an ongoing narrative like that. Because as soon as somebody with a censored name is completing it, all of a sudden it's a moral question. To include them in the lore. So yeah, I could go either way with it. I'm really hoping we just see a lot of puzzles at least. I'm really hoping that we go in on launch day and we've got these nice big maps, but there's a lot of locked doors that no one knows how to open.
Yeah.
And we get to figure that out, and that would be perfect. Maybe we finish it, we find everything eventually, but having that experience of getting that done until the next content drop where they add more puzzles be awesome. It'd be so cool.
Yeah. Well, especially with what I've seen obviously you're very familiar with like the rating and stuff in Destiny. The way that they put together the puzzles where like the players are figuring out, I'm super intrigued to see how they will implement some of these kind of in-game puzzles to unlock something or access an area in this like extraction shooter environment, which is a little bit more kind of intense in terms of like time and PvE kind of stuff occurring around you. I definitely would love to see them kind of flex that muscle in this capacity.
Yeah, if you want to think of it as I want a raid with PvP enabled, that's a good summary of what I want Marathon to be. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Some people might not like it, but being on your toes like that is such a great feeling. Even recently, Bungie's done some crazy things with the raids. I haven't seen all of the Final Shape raid because my team and I are trying to stay spoiler free until we can finish it, because we didn't get to do it on launch. We did a couple hours and then things got messed up, but it happens. But the first encounter, we were there for probably 8 hours, the first puzzle, and we weren't the only ones. Like, even the streamers were there for a while. And it was really cool what they were able to do, even with using mechanics that we know, standing on plates and stuff like that. They're still able to spice it up. And building Marathon from the ground up, I think that they have the opportunity to put in new ways to interact with the environment, like hitting E, which we don't get to do very often in Destiny. So if they can do that and adds in some like different ways to interact and build puzzles off of that, they've had 10 years of practicing doing raid puzzles. And I would love to see that come together in a fresh IP.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, dude, I feel like this has been so informative, and I've loved your opinion so much. I feel like, honestly, I have, obviously, you can see the questions. Obviously, we have this document here. I feel like we have enough for another hour or two of this, but I feel like almost like we might need to do this again and get together and kind of continue to talk about some of these things. But I kind of feel like it'd be a good place to end here, just kind of with this kind of, maybe it's a big question, but as this experienced player in extraction shooters and Destiny, I know you're being humble, but I'm going to call you as I see it. You're the subject matter expert. I feel like if somebody is primed, to be knowledgeable about this, it is Sato. Okay, what is your like biggest hope for the game and your biggest fear regarding the development and the launch? Like, what's your biggest like this thing I'm most safe for, and this thing I'm most like, oh, this could happen? What is that? Just so we kind of have the general high and low end in terms of like where you're at right now with it.
Yeah, I think my biggest hope for Marathon just coming out at all is I really hope that is a good launch. The servers are okay and everything, but I hope that it comes out of the gate and it hits with people. Whatever mechanics they might do, if the puzzles aren't that good, I don't care. If the game is fun to play and people like it, that's my personal hope for it, because that probably means that I like it, and that means I can play it for a long time, and I got to make more stuff on it.
Yeah.
But my biggest fear for it is if the higher ups get to monetize it harder than Destiny. Destiny, I accept that we pay for expansions and the seasons and stuff. We're paying for new PvE content. They're obviously putting it into the new story missions and the new campaigns and the new raids. I think my money is well spent personally on Destiny expansions. It is a little shitty that some people are free to play and don't have all the guns to do PvP, but I think PvP is balanced enough that getting a new gun isn't necessarily going to make the game unplayable for everybody else. My biggest fear is that they're going to monetize Marathon in a way that would split the player base, introduce pay to win in some way, or anything like that. I think they've learned their lesson, but it comes down to, do the higher ups care that they learned a lesson, or do they want to make more money right now, today? But yeah, that's something that we're not going to know until the game is out. Maybe even a couple months after the game is out, when they finish new stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my personal spot on it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think it's good to have like the broad spectrum of like, hey, this is kind of the greatest, what we have to look forward to, and this is also what we need to kind of be aware of, because it kind of puts into perspective, somewhere in the center of there is what we're, thinking about based off everything. So I think that's a good kind of way to kind of gauge the overall opinion in terms of like where we're at right now. And obviously we're all waiting for more information and hopefully a gameplay reveal trailer coming up here pretty soon. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for talking to me and doing this video together. I feel like this is such a good time. This is something I feel like will benefit. Obviously the community right now is smaller because we're, doing kind of groundwork for something that isn't, here yet. But I feel like these types of conversations are important to have in terms of like setting up expectations and creating a community around this thing that we have high hopes for. I think this is kind of the ground floor. And is that kind of silly to say? This is the ground floor. I'm like doing like this sales pitch kind of thing. Listen, get in now. Invest in Marathon.
Dude, invest your thoughts and prayers in the Marathon right now.
This is the next GameStop stock. We need to all be in. But no, I really do appreciate you having this conversation for me, and I think it was good, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun getting to blab for a bit. I'm really excited to see where it goes. Maybe this video will provoke Bungie into putting out the gameplay trailer for us, just for us.
Yes, hey, Jake and Sato need this. These guys are crazy. They're out here making fucking videos about this game. We don't know what's coming out. Give them something. They're losing their minds.
Yeah, maybe. But regardless, as things come out, we get more news. If we come back together and talk about it again, I think it could be a really interesting news segment, kind of. Podcasty feel, discuss things like this. Maybe less Q&A for the viewers and more just a discussion once we have like stuff to hit on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I would love to see, how the people that are here for Marathon now are taking it, and down the line once we do get more and people start coming in because the game is getting closer, what new people think about the format, if they like our thoughts down the line. If we were totally wrong and they call us out and tell us that we're crazy,
can be expected on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Even if we're right, we'll be wrong somewhere.
Well, absolutely. So I guess I'll say, hey, please let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you guys want to continue to see like a format like this with me and Sato talking about stuff, let us know how you would like that. I obviously enjoy doing this. And please, everyone, obviously, link to Sato's channel is going to be in the description of this video, and I think we're going to split it up. So kind of he'll have content on his channel, I'll have content on my channel for this. But please go subscribe to him and check him out. Is there anything else you'd like to direct them towards? I know you have a Twitch, maybe you'd want to point them in the direction
if people want to look at the Twitch, it's just twitch.tv/yoursato, YOURSADOW. I'm not streaming a lot on there now, but as we get closer to Marathon, maybe I'll pick it up. It's just I don't feel like streaming Destiny to promote Marathon right now. But yeah, I mean, people coming over to the channel, kind of hang out, see what's going on there, and talk with both of us. Be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you're looking for content with somebody who's very knowledgeable and like really getting into the nitty gritty of like what you can expect gameplay wise, and a lot deeper. Even what he went into here is very well spoken and has a lot of really great stuff that I think people will find very valuable. So please check it out. All right. Anything to close out on there, Sato?
I am going to have to think of a way to promote yours on my end, but I'm going to record that later.
That'll be perfect.
I get everything together and we figure out where we're going to split it up. I'm going to record, get you an intro, and get you your plug.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, dude.
I thank you for having me on your channel.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for watching all the way through. I really enjoyed getting to work with Jake on this project. So if you enjoyed this kind of discussion, let us know so we can decide if we want to put out more videos like this in the future, and maybe what we could do it on. In case you somehow missed it, Jake's channel, Jake the All Right, is linked below. That's all for today, runners. And remember, in the heavens, they are waiting.